delighted to be speaking to Asha Subramanian right now, whose work has played such an amazing role in organizational development in Karnataka. Asha Subramanian is CHRO at DailyRounds and Marrow. She is known for her work in organizational development, culture transformation, and the future of work strategy. Her perspectives bridge people, capability building, and the rapid shifts reshaping Karnataka's workplaces. It's so lovely to have you here, Asha.
Thanks a lot, Reethika.
Welcome. To begin with, how has your leadership approach evolved as organizations navigate rapid shifts in work, technology, and workspace?
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the question. Very, very relevant question for today's world, right? In the VUCA world. So, how I started a decade and a half back was like, generally the leadership used to be like, we know all the information, we catch up with all the information and we pass it on to the people who are reporting to us. But today, if you look at it, with the kind of Gen Zs, with the kind of new generations which has come, it's changed extremely, like, probably 360 degrees, right? And today, there is no one person holding the entire, like, the force or entire power and, like, telling, I tell you, you do it. It's more of, let's figure it out. Right? That is the first very big change what I'm seeing within myself. Today, I don't tell my team members exactly what they need to do. We sit, we discuss, and we come to a conclusion. That's a very important thing which has happened. The second thing is, like, initially we all felt that leaders are never vulnerable, right? But today we are ready to show that we are vulnerable, right? We're ready to show that not necessary that we know everything, right? Let's figure it out again, right? That's the second thing. And also another very important thing is like upskilling ourselves. That is something which is extremely important. It is not necessary only my reportees or people who are in frontline have to, like, go on upgrading themselves, upskilling themselves. But today, even the leaders, because the technology is grown so beautifully well, right? Like the AI, the tools, the automation, the analytics, right? Predictive analysis, all of this. So I think as a leader, I look at myself today as somebody who can probably sit with my team and figure out, somebody who wants to learn more and more to make sure that I'm relevant, right? And also somebody who will tell the team, like, I'm not somebody who is like a god or something. Let's all sit together and probably find out what is the best solution to go about.
And the power of working together.
Together is always so beautiful. So I think these are something what I'm seeing in the landscape of leadership, and I think that is the most dynamic landscape today, how it is shifting, right? Like probably in some time, even leaders are not required because we can figure out ourselves, right? That's where we are going to be landing very shortly with the kind of advancement, technology advancements, kind of automation, the tools what have come in, right? So I think leadership surely has grown, has matured, and has become in a way where now there is a great assimilation with their reportees and with the other people. If it's not done, then probably we're not.
And I think there is so much about constant learning, even for us as leaders, right? Keep up with it. Forget about the short forms or the slang that anyone's using, but to generally keep up at work, the need to constantly stay updated is so important as I think the world evolves. Talking about the future, what do you see as the most critical HR capability for the next decade, especially in a digital-first economy like that?
This is a very beautiful question, Reethika. In fact, I was going through a few days back what Karnataka government has actually done for skill development with youngsters, right? They have probably brought in 4,400 crores actually, they've got sanctioned where they are looking at a digital Karnataka in 2032 with about 3 million youngsters upskilling themselves. So that's something amazing what Karnataka government is doing, the first thing. And second thing is surely as an HR, right, and a senior leader, I'm making sure that I learn the technology first. So yesterday I used to sit almost about 4 to 5 hours to do one deck or one PPT if I have to go to a college or somewhere, right? Today, I talk to Claude and I tell it in 3 minutes, I have a presentation which is already there with me, and probably a presentation which I can just going to this stage, before going to this stage, I can change it. So I think as a as a leader and as a person of today's HR, I think everybody should surely upskill themselves, unlearn, relearn, right? That is something very important because we've learned a certain way of working together, right? And unlearning that is also a skill which is extremely important today, right? And if you look at how we are working, right? Today we are working on recruitment, we look at AI as one of our main anchor. Or if we are looking at a lifestyle of, or else the entire life cycle of employee, we make sure that we use AI at every stage of it, right? Because we don't want to do the mundane job. We don't want to do the business as usual kind of. We want to, every company is trying to give that aha experience to the employee. So how do we do it, right? If the company is very big, if the workforce is very large, then how do you give that aha experience to each one of them, right? Individually. You can't as human. So we are using a lot of automation. They're also using automation at the time where people leave, because we know predictive analysis can give us exactly from where, if I hire, how long this person will stay, right? Even to hire, we are using predictive analysis, and we're using quite a lot of tools. In fact, it can be the leaves, to manage the leaves, or to find out how the employees are feeling in the morning when they come into the office, or every quarterly how they actually feel about the leadership or about themselves or about the work what they're doing, right? So overall, I think as a HR, especially in digital Karnataka, because we have such big dreams. I've really heard a lot about this, in fact, and I've attended few sessions also, and I've read about it. I think every HR has to start adapting this.
And I think the beauty of Karnataka, I think from Karnataka in the late 1990s with the whole IT-enabled services coming up to what it is today, is how quickly things grow.
Yeah.
Also, your whole point of unlearning and relearning makes so much sense. But what practices do you think have proven most effective in building cultures that are resilient and inclusive, and very importantly, innovation ready in an ever-evolving workspace?
Beautiful questions, Reethika. So one is, we all talk about inclusion, right? What do? We have boards, and we have leaderboards where we tell there is 40% women population in the organization, 60%, and we stop it over there. I think we need to graduate from there, telling that inclusion is just not the numbers, my friend. It's much beyond that, right? Inclusion is where you are listening to people, where employees feel they're heard actually, and where training is provided to everybody. It's not only one set of people, right? And somebody who feels that I'm fine to fail in this organization. This organization is ready to take the failure and make sure that they again give me a tip to do how how better I can actually do next time, and I can learn from failures, right? That's called as an inclusion for me, right? Where people are comfortable to talk in a room, speak out their heart in a room, the communication, or the training sessions, or about the failures. These are all probably something which we need to
To
do.
have every voice heard, I think.
Every voice
as opposed
heard.
to just having the first role.
Yeah. So, but lot many places we look at inclusion as very number driven kind of a thing. Probably we need to. Many companies are doing beautiful work on this. I would not take the thunder out of that, but generally we should not compile it only with the numbers. We should go beyond that and make sure that people are heard, are able to speak, are able to fail but make sure that the failure immediately, they wake up from that failure, learn from their, learn their lessons and then start working. So that's called as inclusion, right? And innovation, again, Ritika, it's another very, very important word. And today, if you don't have innovation, if you're not going to bring out the innovation in the organization, your Gen Zs are not even interested to work with you, right? That's a very important thing actually, where you create that space for people, you create that kind of a work for people, and also create that environment where you are fine to listen to new ideas, not kind of close yourself and you tell I'm the final boss, right? That's where the leader, first question what we dealt about today, the leadership is not just about I tell you do, it's all about we all tell and we listen to each other. So probably innovation is extremely important, and make sure that the environment is open for people to innovate. When will the environment be open? When you let people to fail and also learn from the failure. So probably these are few pointers.
And I think that really makes such an important point. I think the ability to say it's okay, I've messed up, but I can redo it and do it better again.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people have, the sort of faith in an organization to say, oh my gosh, I messed up. Do you think I'll still have a job tomorrow?
Yeah, I will lose my job,
Yeah.
right? Or what will others talk about me, right? So I think a lot of new companies are in fact coming up with these kind of things, and even in my company Marrow Daily Rounds, so we've got a very, very strong culture which is being built where if I fail, it's fine, right? But don't make the same mistake.
Right.
Do some other mistake, right? That's the beauty actually, and yeah.
And I think that gives such a lovely spin to what inclusion really is in an organization as well, and especially in a world where we're so busy looking at gender stereotypes and
Absolutely.
smaller things to sort of include a larger picture in the word inclusion is
Agree.
Absolutely lovely. But moving on, how do you think organizations rethink capability development, especially when AI and automation reshapes roles of employees?
Yeah, if you ask in HR, I think there is a lot of work which has happened in the space. Especially, it starts from manpower planning, right? And today, yesterday, Ritika, it used to be how do you hire people? You hire people through basically degrees and hierarchy and year of experience. Today, it's slowly shifted to skill base, right? And that's what is in fact the Karnataka government is trying to do. That's the main word what they're using is, you don't need big degrees, you don't need 10 years of experience, you need skills, right? So today there is a shift from your normal, your tenured hiring to skill based hiring. That's a very, very important change which has happened actually across, right? And in fact, in one of the company, I had hired a CTO. He didn't even have a degree. Yeah, I mean, but he was super smart and solid techie, and we just found him really smart. And we just thought, why should we go the normal way? Let's do something different, and it worked for us. Right. So that is one very important thing what we'll have to do. And also again, right, there are the skill landscape is extremely dynamic today. If you are in Python tomorrow, already there is some other this one, right? Golang has come in, or there is a new technology which comes in, and people should be updated. As an HR person, I look at how my organization will look tomorrow. What should I do to make sure my people are skilled,
I
right,
think
for
this is where it
tomorrow's.
goes around in full circles. We're talking about skill based, and you learn, relearn, unlearn, relearn, and you come back to the whole skill based concept
Exactly.
of keeping teams going. What guidance do you think you could offer HR leaders who are preparing their organizations for the future of work, say in a decade or so?
Okay. So AI is not anymore far fantasy, Ritika. It is already there, and let's accept that it is already kind of not taking over, but it is aligned with us and working with us, right? So make sure that you start using, you as HR leader, please start educating yourself, right? Once you are educated, it's very easy to bring in that continuous learning process to your entire team, right? First thing. Second thing is probably like, again, for the first question, what I answered, we are no more leaders. We are actually working with teams, right? Let's get it to that shell, and then probably working together will become very easy. And make sure that, like, you think just not for today, but also for tomorrow, because the landscape of skill, landscape of people, the mentality, the way they work, right? Everything is changing. And like, let's agree, we are in a VUCA world, right? Like, and also there is hybrid culture. It might get into again work from home culture. How do you manage that kind of a scenario? Adaptability, change management. These are few things probably I will tell them to, like, deep dive into and double click on these kind of things and make sure that, like, you're ready for today and tomorrow.
And like you said, I feel like change management is so much more than just whether it's hybrid or not. It's about how the team functions itself.
Absolutely.
To the skill set you want your team to have to know.
Absolutely. They're redundant. I mean, yesterday they were really very important people. Today they're redundant. Why? Because, like, they've not upgraded themselves. You have to upgrade. There is no escape on this for any level in the organization. It can be seniors, juniors, anybody, right? So I think upgrading ourselves is one of the most important things to stay relevant.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been lovely having you over.
Thanks a lot, Reethika.
Thank you.